couple of things. If you've never listened to the Mick Betancourt Show, first and foremost, subscribe to it. It's awesome. It's my favorite podcast to listen to. And there are a lot of great podcasts out there. We talk about them all the time. And I speak in superlatives, I know. You can talk about me for it. But just slightly edging out the rest of the podcasts that I listen to, because it pulls at my heartstrings. The story, the way that he goes about it, and now for the encouragement that he's given to us.
That's right.
The Mick Betancourt Show. So if you don't know the Mick Betancourt Show, get out there and fucking listen to it. It's terrific.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that he used to do, and he doesn't do it as much anymore because kind of the jig is up, but he would give what's known as the hype intro.
Right.
And the hype intro was just, he would start the podcast by referring to a news story, and then he would let this news story spin out of control until the guest was sitting there flabbergasted, like, I can't believe they trained monkeys to whatever.
Yeah.
Morse code, really? And he'd say yes. And the first message they would type is, welcome to the Mick Betancourt Show. And whoever the guest was. And then it would just, that would be the joke. Like, I got you. You fell for the story. I'm proud to say I'm the person who gave Mick Betancourt his hype intro.
Yeah, you hype introed him, and it was good. You had him probably 2/3 of the way through it.
I did.
And you were deep enough in, he had to let you go.
Yeah, that's right.
And you were going big, too. You had a midget swinging upside down. And so you're definitely going to enjoy that when you hear that. What else comes up? He talks about his story, about how he did it, how he rolled the dice.
And his struggle is magnificent. You guys, listen to this story. He's got such a great personal narrative. You're going to fall in love with the guy. We did. He's our guest this week, Mick Betancourt. Man, so I'm standing in Tifa.
There you go.
Boom.
I got to tell you, we had, let's see, all kinds of podcasts, and I don't know how exactly I stumbled upon the Mick Betancourt Show, but it was probably an appearance you made on another podcast.
Probably, yeah.
And so I checked you out, and I listened to your show, and the first show of yours that I listened to, which might be the best show, if you, our listeners, listen to anybody's podcast, I usually will look at the catalog, and if I see Joey Coco Diaz in there, I go, fuck, I'm starting right there.
Yeah.
Let's start with the goods. And I listened to that. And in that show, and correct me if I'm wrong, because what I did was I listened to your first show, and then I fucking couldn't get enough. And I just went through the catalog, and I did everything that needed to be done at my house that day. I mowed the lawn, raked the leaves, blew the driveway out, anything that I could do to keep my headphones on.
Cool.
Yeah, and I just went through it, man. And then I emailed you, and I think the subject line in the email was, fuck. What the fuck? And I was profoundly affected. So that was, I don't know if that was a month ago, but it wasn't 3 months ago. It was just a matter of weeks.
Well, that's really cool to hear, man. You never, as fellow podcasters, you never know what type of impact your work is going to have on anybody. First, you do it because you love it, and you think, I don't think necessarily I have something to say that that requires being put out into the population, but I do have a curiosity about what other people have to say, and I think I'll trade horses with them as far as stories and life experiences when they do come by, because I think I love interviewing people, but I think people will open up a little more if they understand that there's some kind of shared human experience, as opposed to, I'm going to grill you, try to have you share your most intimate, experiences, and then I'm just going to sit over here and judge you. No one's going to say shit.
Yeah.
And I also don't think things have to be pious. I just wanted to I thought, well, if I'm going to do a podcast, I don't want to do it so that it leads to a show. I don't want to do it so that it gets me anything other than bringing me a real sense of joy and accomplishment just by the act of doing it. Yeah. And so that was my approach to it. So I'm really glad and grateful you got something out of it.
Not only did I get something out of it, but you guys absolutely listen to the Mick Betancourt Show on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you want to get it. And when you go on there and you listen to it, leave a 5-star review because this is what happens, man. So we traded emails and I was all jazzed up. I was like, fuck, man, this is a great show. And I love a lot of podcasts. I love Jay Moore's podcast. I love Adam Carolla's podcast. I love Joe Rogan's podcast. But, man, yours, I connected with it. So a week later, I get a shirt in the mail. And I was all...
I got to tell you, he was stoked. He was jumping up and down.
I was like, Pete, you got to come over. You got to come over. Check this out. Look at this, man. But what I didn't do was I did not Google map Tifa. So I didn't know what the place looked like.
Yeah.
And this morning we were watching the morning news and they were talking about the, storm of the century coming and they were showing, I guess they were somewhere downtown, but I don't know what was going on. Either the scroll or something was happening. And I saw Ventura and I don't know what. So in my mind, the thing that connected was, holy shit, I wonder if that's where Mick's office is. And I'm looking up. And
is the storm of the century coming here?
I think you guys are getting the bottom part of it.
Yeah, something like that. But that wasn't what the story was about. The story was about this thing that's going on. There's a building and it's like a glass building and it's probably downtown. But they had this thing hooked up on top of it. And the story was about this guy who was a performance artist. And it was remarkable. I mean, it's captivating TV. I'm watching it. This guy is a performance artist and he has this fucking trapeze and he swings back and forth on the thing going up across the building. And then his wife, who is his lovely assistant, they defected from the former Soviet Union. And they came here and they were circus performers or something. And they came up through Cuba. It was a harrowing tale. They ended up here in Los Angeles. This guy's got this performance. I guess there's a city walk or an art walk or something happening downtown. This guy's got this performance art thing that he does on this building. It's a trapeze and he's a midget. And he swings back and forth and he's got this thing it's like acetate. What is that?
Who knows?
Nail polish remover.
Okay. Acetone.
Yeah. And gasoline.
That's okay.
And I guess he mixes these things together. He swings on the trampoline. His wife lowers him down and he goes back and forth and he does this thing with the acetone and gasoline on the building.
Uh-huh.
What?
And then they unload we're sitting there and they unload this thing and it's, I guess, like lawn clippings down the building and they hit it with a blower. And what happens is the acetone part deflects the grass and what's left is like a Christmas tree or a candy cane or text that says, Mick Betancourt, welcome to our show.
I sensed the hype. I sensed the hype intro. He did it. When you said acetone and gas, once you said midget was, I'm like, he's going for the hype intro. He's going for the hype intro. I love it.
I had to do it.
The midget was like, I was right with you until you're like, oh, and then he's also a midget.
On a trapeze, swinging back and forth.
With acetone. That was awesome.
And I'll
you
tell
nailed
you
it.
why I went with acetone and
'cause
gasoline and lawn clippings was because gas, or grass, nobody rides for free.
Nobody does. Not in these trying times.
That's funny.
God damn.
I can't do the hype intro anymore because people know.
No, they
know it's coming.
Already.
Like this with Kevin Parker, I tried to do a Spider-Man, and he's looking at me like, come on.
Yeah.
I listened to the show.
Right.
I only got one person where I had to preface that for those of you listening, I try to do this insane story in the beginning, much like you just said.
Yeah.
And then it ends with an introduction to the guest. But now it's so difficult because people, the farther down an abstract, absurdist road I go, they're like,
oh, here it comes.
This is the fucking hype intro.
Yeah. So that
was a good one, though.
Thank you. The one that I really dug, though.
From Cuba.
You did get me.
I love that shit. For comedians, fiction, when you're going down a road, if you can veer off into this odd, absurdist land, you throw in a description here or two that just, it's so great. I love it. It's so entertaining.
I was on the shitter this morning when I came up with that, honestly.
And that's where the magic happens.
That was a surprise. I didn't even know where we were going. You were like, you were there, and I'm like, I'm shutting up.
Because I'm looking at him going, is he in on this? Because once I heard midget, now I'm looking at you going, but you played it cool. You were like, all right, yeah, no, I have knobs to turn over here.
Yeah. I'm doing social media.
Yeah. So, man, where do we begin? Fuck.
You wanted to start with, why the fuck are you talking to two fat guys that move couches for a living?
Yeah.
Because I was a fat guy that moved couches for a living. I respected your hustle, and I will always 100% of the time, if I have any time, be completely available to anybody who's going after their dreams or working hard toward a goal. And if I can help and participate in that in any way, I'm 100% committed. I fucking walk the walk. You guys listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
I've sent over out 1,000 shirts, handwritten thank you cards. I have total respect for the listener and the audience. But even more than that, the emails that I get from people that thing that you just took a picture of is from a guy who used that very chainsaw to build his own house. And his spirit was broken a little bit, and he was struggling with some stuff, and he got fired up, and he wanted to take his destiny into his own hands, or at least his actions into his own hands, instead of having the world pushing him around, to just plant his feet and go, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going into the woods, and I'm going to start cutting down trees, and I'm going to build a house. And so he did it.
Jesus Christ.
And then he sent me that.
Yeah.
I mean, that, like, people are like, why don't you get paid for your podcast? You have good rating. I go, that's how I get paid.
Yeah.
And that's, fuck your money.
Yeah.
That's priceless. That's priceless to me. I'll have that till I die.
No
I'll
shit.
bring that with me wherever I go. You know what I mean? So it all winds up as a wash in the end. When you guys emailed, I'm like, these guys are hustling. I got an hour tomorrow. What am I going to say no and then do my podcast on Monday and be like, let's, we're all in this together. I'd be a total fucking hypocrite,
Wow.
Yeah, we're all in this together. Hey, I'm on my own.
Send money.
So look, no shit. Look, there's John putting up Christmas lights, and notice that he's about 12 feet in the air, and I mean puts me at about 10, taking a picture. And then that's a podcast.
I didn't look happy about that shit.
Oh, that's cool. We just put lights on yesterday. Nothing like that though.
Yeah, it was not, we weren't doing it for fun.
That's Jenny from Berkeley, her house. And she said, I want this to be ridiculous. I want it to be a spectacle. I want it to be funky.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And she just kept bringing out boxes of lights.
She did. She was like Clark Griswold. We were like, this is an 1,100 square foot house, and you just brought us 680 feet of Christmas lights.
Like legitimately, yeah. And our job, in our hustle, our job is to say yes. Our people that take care of us, they're like, can you? Yes.
Yeah.
We don't know how we're going to do all that yet, but that's what we do.
We don't give a shit what we do.
Yeah.
We've done just so we could get gas to come down here.
Yeah.
We don't do plumbing unless you ask.
Right? What's the end game, though?
This right here.
Yeah, you want it to blossom into it can be exactly what it is now, or do you want it to expand, or what's the...
Well, you know what? I don't know if I want to put a time marker on this thing because we're putting it up for posterity, but we posted up our first podcast 6 weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
Since then, we've got 9 up and 11 in the can. This is our 12th.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got work to do as far as editing and stuff, just so we can put up, so this is our 21st one that we've done.
You got to help, whatever kind of guest I am, it is what it is. But the Sly Stone, these other guests that you guys are talking, it's incredible. The in that short period of time that you've reached out and left your comfort zone physically and metaphorically,
it's partly Sly's fault.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The night we hung out with him, one of the things he said, and John and I are trying to figure it out because we know we can go broke. We know that for a fact. And we know we've been doing this radio show for a while. We're going to do the podcast. And Sly says, basically, I don't care about money. I'm going to make music. And if that's not good enough, then I don't deserve to eat. Well,
wow.
So we thought, well, fuck, we got to get to work.
Yeah.
Because that's it.
Yeah.
So for a little bit of history, we're both, right around the same age. And while you were out there slogging it out, doing your thing and getting on stage and making it work, Pete spent most of the last dozen years in Iraq and Afghanistan, slogging it out over there.
Yeah.
And I was I'll say a junior executive at a Fortune 100 company.
Ooh.
And that shit sucked.
Sure.
And I hated it. So I'm done hating it.
Yeah.
And so then Pete and I just started trying to figure it out around the same time. And then, this kind of landed on us. We started doing it. We had a radio program together. And then, but here we are.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm where you were when you were probably in your early 20s.
I think that's, and certainly doesn't need to turn into a therapy session, but I think that type of thinking is like swallowing a hand grenade and you're not quite sure when it's going to go off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you say I was on stage and things were working out for me, if you just looked at my comedy career, it's an abject failure.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. It's
if you were to look at it on paper and you would say, well, I've been doing stand up for 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
I just put a comedy album out 3 months ago that I recorded and that I paid for. I released it entirely for free. It was available to stream for free for people that went to the website for 24 hours and available to the listeners of the podcast for 7 days. I've had 3 television appearances. The most paid me $2,500. I've never gone on an extensive tour. I'm considered a headlining comic. I make absolutely zero money on it. There is a cool kids table in the world of comedy. The comedy world is much smaller than the drama world.
Yeah.
And to give you an example, the guy that booked me on my very first television appearance in 2002 is now the booker for At Midnight on the Comedy Central show.
Yeah, sure.
Which is one of the few places that stand-up comedians can get. You have late night TV if you actually do stand-up or appear as a comedian. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? As opposed to like a sketch show. So when you go on At Midnight, they say stand-up comedian Kyle Kinane. Right. And that he gets to be stand-up. He doesn't have to be anything else. He doesn't have to be a part of a sketch. He gets to be himself or herself, whatever the case may be. But the only reason I say that is all of that informed my ability to write dramatically. It informed every decision that I'm making now. And I used to be very hard on myself and discount things that I perceived as a failure. I would just throw all that experience away, and I would throw all that information away and say, well, how can that possibly have anything to do with what I want to do here? It has everything to do with it. Yeah. It is why would I throw that pain away or the joys of it away? I put in sweat equity in that. Just because it doesn't direct in my brain, I can't link the two together. That's on me. You know what I mean? So to hear you say that, you have a tremendous amount of a resource that you probably haven't even really tapped into. Your experience of working for a Fortune 500 is directly going to inform your ability on the business side to make this grow exponentially, as opposed to 2 comedians who come together and might have the same talent that you two have, but have no idea how to approach it from a business point of view. So there's all these assets that were liabilities moments ago, until we shift our perception and we're like, whoa, let me look at this from an entirely new angle and see what I can mine from this. People throw lives away because they're they're grading their own test.
Yeah.
And if you're giving yourself an F and you did something for as long as you guys did, fuck that.
Yeah.
Fuck that, man. Take all of that and roll it into wherever you want to go in the future. And if you failed for 10 years straight and you know it, and you're like, I just threw 10 fucking years of my life away, guess who knows more about failure than your competition? Yeah. You do.
Yeah.
And so if you really are serious and you have a shift in your perception and your consciousness, you are going to know failure on a subconscious level, on such a superior level than anybody else, that you're going to know where all of the mines are and you're going to avoid them. And you can just do what you do and move forward, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that fucking lump of profundity because goddamn, we know some failure. And that really is what empowers us. It makes us completely unafraid because I don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just to the point, and I know Pete is too, where we're just like, fuck it. We may as well go for it. We may as well fucking email Mick Betancourt and say, hey, man, let's do it.
Yeah.
And because sometimes people say yes. And
if the worst thing is no,
yeah,
from a guy who's spent time in Iraq and Afghanistan, how,
yeah,
I'm sure you take 1,000 no's than another hour over there.
And John will confirm this. There's all the time where I will just start laughing. And I'm like, this is ridiculous, right. You know, because I've who cares? I've got a resume, I've got a master's degree and everything else. But yeah, I've been shot at. I've been almost dead so many times. Like, it's 9 lives shit, you know? And I'll just start laughing. I'll go, he'll say, what? I'm like, this is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Are you telling those stories?
Man, you know, on the show, we don't tell a whole lot of them because, you know, if we give all of our stories out right away, but yeah, they leak out for sure. Yeah. We tell them. I mean, he knows a lot of my stories. I know a lot of his, but for sure, we use them. Yeah. Because they're great. There's some incredible stories. Absolutely.
You know, and after listening to your podcast, when you talk about fucking everything, you know, you're growing up and just scraping it together and your mom and, you know, I'm just like, fuck, it doesn't, who cares, man?
Yeah.
We can go ahead and tell the story about Pete shitting his pants. I never shit my pants out.
No, I've shit my pants a lot.
But
I have. Like, it's time. Oh, it was time. Now it's done.
Time has passed.
Yeah.
Man, you've never had a perplexing problem like when you shit your pants and you're like, now what do I do? Because now
it's very zen. It does bring you right into the now.
Yeah. Whatever you were worried about is no longer a part of the problem. You're like, my socks are wet with shit.
You might be able to open like a self-realization center that just demands that all of the students shit their pants in unison.
Yeah.
and just have a fan, the door open and the fan blowing out of just health concerns. Yeah. But really bringing it in to the now.
Well, I'm working on my 5 minutes and to be ready if we ever get offered to take the mic, and I believe it'll be about shit stories because they're fucking hilarious.
And I do understand, and I'm trying to absorb the information you've just given us, but all the business learnings and all that. Yes, you do run across that when you have a corporate job for that long. But we got off the elevator at our hotel this morning, and just before I got off the elevator, I farted and jumped out the door so somebody else could enjoy it in there after me.
It's a little parting gift.
Yeah. Right. So that's where I am,
yeah,
in my life.
I call this one Continental Breakfast.
Yes. It's funny you say that.
You named it.
Yeah. Yeah. My buddy Dennis, he's from Chicago, and actually he shit his pants one time, and I'm about to tell you that story too, but he'll name them. He's like, I call this one flew over the cuckoo's nest. And then he'll tell you what he did. Like, he loves to go on the L, and on the L, when you walk in the doors, they got the little the dividers for the seats.
Yeah.
And there's that little opening. It's about butt height.
Yes.
He just puts a little dust right in there. So the person sitting there with their face is just, they don't know what's going on, but they just got dusted. And he's got a name for that. But it's the L, so there's no real rules or anything.
Yeah. The crop dusting is horrible. I've walked into actually I was in LAX and I was leaning against a post that's almost next to the wall. So I'm like, oh, this is safe. And it was one of these where you're just like and then I just hear and I turn around and there's like a 70-year-old lady sitting on her luggage. I literally just farted right in her face. Right in her face. Like my ass was 6 inches from her face. I had no idea.
You made the old man laugh.
I didn't even know there was room for a human being, let alone one right behind me. So I go, oh my God, ma'am, I am so sorry. And she just goes, story of my life. And she grabbed her fucking luggage and walked away.
Oh, shit. John, you got to tell your I farted in the elevator story.
Oh, yeah. So I was I worked in a building. We were in the 7th floor, 250 Montgomery in San Francisco. And I had most of my clients were on the East Coast, so I was the guy in at 6 a.m. And I was in there, and I would 7:30. I would get in the elevator, and I would hit the lobby button, and I would go down, and there was a Jamba Juice in the lobby of the building, and there was nobody else in the building at 7:30 in the morning. Nobody started until 8. So every morning I would go over there, I'd hit the L, get down the lobby, the doors would open, I'd get my Jamba Juice, go back up to my desk. Well, one day I got in there, man, and my stomach was gurgling, and I let one go, and oh my God, it smelled bad. And ding, and I looked up, and the elevator stopped at 4, and the doors opened up, and the 6-foot Argentinian supermodel in a white dress that went maybe down halfway down her ass walked. I have no idea what she was doing in that building at that time of day, but I was mortified.
The Smoking Hot Factory was probably hiring on floor 4.
I guess so. And she walked into the
elevator. She walked into the fudge factory.
And the doors closed, and it smelled like open ass in that elevator, and I was standing in there by myself. I could do or say nothing. I just wrote it out, and I walked away. And it
would have been great if you had just been like, you like champions? This is how a champion smells.
Maybe she was into that sort of thing.
About to go back upstairs and do 1,000 push-ups.
It's funny when I tell that story to hear you just have a comeback because people have, why didn't you just say, motherfucker, when you were standing in that elevator and it smells just like shit and you were in there by yourself, I guarantee you there's nothing you can say.
Yeah. You got to go the other way. I would have been like, thank God. You didn't get on 5 minutes.
Who got off on 5.
4 ISIS terrorists covered in shit. And I choked out 3 of them, and one guy almost blew himself up, and I had to fist his cornhole.
Right.
And to make him just like a pit bull. It was the only way I could get him to unlock his hands was to shove a fist up his ass, which is why
I had to do that.
It smells so horrible in here. But I'm a patriot, and I couldn't allow this tyranny to stand. And
absolutely,
which is also why I'm taking my pants off. Now is not a sexual. There's nothing sexual going on here. It's just,
although there could be.
I'm chubbing up.
It's totally up to you and whether you care about Argentina right now and the fact that their currency's collapsing.
Maybe there's something you can do about that.
I would say recycle your skirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
If I was to take Mick's episode and improve it, you could look back and go, "You're welcome."
Yeah.
Just drop it on her,
Yeah.
That's some victory for you right there.
Enjoy that.
Welcome to America.
Yeah.
Where we're willing to go to any lengths.
Yeah.
That's right.
To
you
stop
sit
terror.
there in your luggage and I'll give you a little present.
We will stop terror around here. So your drama writing career, well, how about that for a segue?
Yeah.
So your drama writing career.
Smells like shit.
Yeah. Anyway, what are you doing, man? Why do you have this afternoon open? How come everybody else is busy? When you look on your IMDb, you're clearly busier than everybody else in the universe.
I just wrapped a show, Chicago PD for NBC, which was a great experience. And I sold I pitched Fox Network an original 1-hour drama, which they liked, and they bought, or they at least ordered the pilot script. So now I'm in the process of writing that. So this is my lunch. And then when we're done with this, I will go back over to that standing desk right there, and I will finish folding in notes. I have the script, a draft of the script is due to the production company tonight for the studio to read tomorrow morning. And then if they like it, they will forward it to the network, which will read it over the weekend. And then hopefully I'll get some notes next week. Yeah. And then, it's pretty exciting to be in the mix, Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You are deep in the mix. I mean, you came out here, you came to LA for your comedy career.
I did. I came out, I was represented. Yeah, I was a stand-up comic. I was a trained improviser. I went through Second City and Annoyance Theater, a couple classes at Improv Olympic, a couple acting classes, but nothing too serious. I went out and just bought some video cameras and just figured I would just learn on the fly as opposed to all of my experience. And I've had some very positive experiences with school, but most of it was preparing me to go out and get real world experience. And so in my early 20s, I thought I would rather just go out and get experience rather than learn someone telling me about experience and then me actually having to go get it. Right. I wanted to cut out the middleman.
Yeah.
So I moved out here. I guess discovered would be the easiest word at the 2001 Chicago Comedy Festival.
Please fucking tell that story.
Was that the one where the guy wouldn't put me on stage?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I helped in 2000 as a producer because I had my own room in Chicago, which is when you have a room, it's just you have a space that you're putting up your own comedy show.
Right.
And it's kind of like it's not a powerful thing, but what it does is it allows you to have your own stage time guaranteed every at a special time every week. You're
making your stage time.
You're making your own stage time, but you also have something to barter with other people that have rooms where you say, I'll give you a spot on my show if you give me a spot on your show. And you can trade spots.
Okay.
So then now your time expands. Now instead of doing one show, you're doing two.
Right.
And so on. But I had a fairly successful show, so I got asked by one of the executive producers of the Chicago Comedy Festival to come help promote and produce his live shows and also use my venue in the festival. I auditioned and then got in as talent for 2001.
All right.
So I was producing 4 shows and then performing in 4 shows. And so the festival went Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday had a finale show, like a best of fest, where all the executives, and at this point, there were no TV show shooting in Chicago. There was no industry in Chicago. There was like 2 casting directors, but no real legitimate agents that had any real sway outside of Chicago. So the fact that there were executives coming in was a big deal.
Yeah.
That were like from TV and movies and talent agencies. So they were all drunk. They were all buzzed, feeling great in this room this last night. Huge comics were going up. Local comics were going up. I was not going up. And as the show reached the 2-hour mark, I went up to the guy and I said, listen, are you going to put me up? Because everybody was there. Some of those people might have been at a few shows scattered out, but they were all now in one room.
Sitting ducks.
Sitting there.
Good and sauced.
Sauced, having a good time. They had to fly back to LA and New York the next morning. And he goes, listen, the show's going too long. I'm gonna wrap it up. And everyone, we're opening the bar. And I go, and I took it for a beat. And I took a few steps. And we were right by the front. We were crouching down by the front of the stage because there's steps at the downtown Zanies that go up to the stage. And I thought, no, man, fuck this. I put in the work and my sets went well. And I got nothing. No cards, no legitimate business feedback from the performances. And I said to him, listen, I've worked really fucking hard last year and this year on a business level, but I've also done very well at the shows. I've shown well. and you're going to give me 3 minutes or we're going to have a real problem. Nice. And he's like, all right.
Yeah.
So he goes, I know I told you the show was over. We got one last special guest. He's going to come on and just do a couple minutes for you, and then we're going to open the bar. And people were like, they thought the show was going to be over.
Right,
so I went on.
Minutes.
Now it's dawning on me, what material am I going to do in 3 minutes? Because I just asked for this thing, and I had no. So there was a literally like a setup punchline joke that I had thought about earlier that day, and I'm like, fuck, I'll just do this, which is the worst thing that you could do as a comedian, is open new or do anything new. You want the tried true material that works for sure.
Right.
And for whatever reason, I thought, fuck it, I'm just going to roll the dice with this. It literally was like a 40-second thing. The crowd went fucking bananas. And I'm like, I'm not going to do the rest of the 3 minutes because they know I'm supposed to do 3 minutes. And I'm like, that's it. Good night.
Open the bar.
Just the fact that I didn't even do the whole time.
Yeah.
Someone in the front row stuck their hand up and it had I didn't know what it was, but I go, oh, that's a fucking business card. So I took it. And as I'm walking to the back, people are like jumping over each other to give me
my card, you
business cards.
Yeah.
So I got my agent that night. That I've since gone on to a different agent, but he's like, we're going to represent you. We're a big agency in Los Angeles. You're going to go out and audition for movies and for TV shows. We're going to put you on TV for stand-up. And I'm like, fucking 40 seconds. It was crazy. I just took a big swing. I happened to clip a piece of the pitch. And so I started a dialogue with him, and then I was very nervous. I didn't want to go because I really love Chicago. And at that point, I could go up whenever I wanted.
Right.
Big fish, little
you
pond.
had the town by the tail.
Yeah. And, I would call and he's like, when the fuck are you coming out here? And I said, you know what? I don't know if I want to go. And he said, listen, man, if you want to play for the Pittsburgh Pirates, you got to move to Pittsburgh. He's like, that's what you have to do. I'm like, fuck, I don't know. I had at that time, a pretty nice job. I was a Teamster working for the city of Chicago out at O'Hare. So I would work 7 to 3 there, and I could go play Midwest gigs as long as I was back by 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
So I had a pension and benefits, and
And you could hop in your car, getting straight off of work, and be in Racine or fucking whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I woke up on 9/11.
Yeah.
And I watched the second plane go into the tower in Chicago. And I thought, I was raised by immigrants, and I thought, fuck you. This is the greatest country in the world, and all I've been doing is my grandfather and grandmother on both sides, well, almost both sides, moved here with fucking nothing for the American dream.
Yeah.
And I can't go to California when someone's like, hey, do you want your life to be better? But it demands incredible risk and real potential heartbreak with no promise that it's going to happen. Well, what were they looking at when they came here?
No
you know?
doubt.
So I said, as soon as the fucking planes are up, I'm going. And I didn't know. I knew that guy.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know, I was suspect of that.
One friend in Los Angeles.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I went to O'Hare where I was working, which was a total bedlam because they were downing all the planes.
Was stranded.
Yeah, they were grounding all of the planes.
Yeah.
And so I said, I'm quitting today. And they go, what are you talking about? You literally have the best job in the city.
Yeah.
And I go, I'm done. They go, well, take a leave of absence so that you can, if it doesn't work out, you can come back. I go, no safety nets. No safety nets.
Wow.
So as soon as the planes are up, I'm out of here. And my wife's like, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, so it took her 6 months to get out of her job. So I rented a Kia from a place by the airport, and I would sleep Monday through Friday on my friend Mike's rug like this in his living room. Mm-hmm. And then Saturday and Sunday, I'd sleep in the Kia.
Wow.
Holy
until
shit.
she could come out. And that was the beginning. And I did have an agent, but that I didn't know anybody else out here that was doing anything. And then it was just literally going to the Improv. Hey, can I go up? Who the fuck are you? No. All right. And then going to open mics and then trying to just figure the scene out and being present. And, hey, can I go up here? No. All right. Anything I could do? Can I send you anything? Can I work the door for you? Whatever. I would drive down to Long Beach, 40 minutes to do a 10-minute set, but they paid you in burritos.
Hey, I like
yeah.
So I'm like,
come home full.
Fuck, I can eat dinner down there.
Yeah.
And I try to use those early days to remind me, where in my life am I driving 40 minutes to do something that I love? Like you guys just drove down to do this for a burrito.
Yeah.
Where in my life am I being too precious with my art or who I think I am or what I'm doing, because that's a total fucking liability. That's when you start to rest on your laurels, rust. Meanwhile, people are nipping at your heels and they're excited and they're vibrant and they want to work 110%. You're like, I know how to write a scene. Well, when I write that scene, if that's my approach to it, it's going to be boring as fuck. When I go and I do stand up like, oh, I know how to do this, it's not going to pop. It's not going to be exciting. It's not going to be happening in the moment. It's going to be rote, you know? Wow. So I try to keep those experiences, just like we were talking about, these perceived failures, this perceived struggle. There's too much information in there to throw that away. And so that informs right now, and that was 13 years ago.
Wow.
You know?
That's fucking heavy, man.
It is heavy.
Yeah. Thank you for dropping that on us. That was a lot of... So you were married at the time?
Still am.
No kids yet?
No, I didn't have any kids. When my son was born, when my wife got pregnant, I was 6 months sober, and I was parking cars at a place called Casa Vega. I was valeting cars, making about... $250 a week.
Yeah. Well, you came out here and you had to work out here too to put bread on the table.
Yeah.
You worked at
the
Starbucks.
Yeah. Well, I got the job at Starbucks because of the benefits.
Yeah.
Because I thought if she had any complications to her pregnancy and couldn't go back to work, at least we would have benefits. I worked there for almost 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. What a great story.
Bananas. Yeah. I remember, I worked there for 2 years. My wife worked at a hotel. And then, let's see, I booked a pilot as an actor. It's like a heavy, like one of the bad guys. Yeah. But I met the writer of that pilot, the creator of it, on the set. And we just started talking about shows. And so when the pilot didn't go, my character wouldn't have been brought back anyway, but the pilot didn't go. And so I reached out to him about 6 months later. And I said, listen, man, there's this thing in the world of comedy where someone goes and they do a set. They say, hey, I'm going up tonight. Will you come and watch? And you go, sure, just as a friend and fellow comedian. And then they walk off stage and they fucking bombed. But they have this huge grin on their face and they're like, how fucking great was that? And you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Like they don't know.
Yeah.
They're totally disconnected from the reality. And that's my phobia. Like I'm so worried that I'm super passionate about something that's destroying my life just because, I had to get sober. So clearly I was passionate about it. It's happened in my life before,
right?
Where I was like, no, this isn't killing me. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, dude, you need to fucking stop. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm kind of phobic about that in every area of my life. And, so I said to this guy, look, you're a dramatic writer. I love dramatic television. I have no experience in that world, but I have an idea that I'm super excited and passionate about. But before I get super far down the road, I'd like to take you out to lunch so you can tell me if I'm being that guy or not. Yeah. That I'm super excited about this thing that doesn't have any potential or possibility.
And he's going to give you the honest answer.
Yeah, he'll give me this. Stick with comedy. Yeah. And so we went out and I told him and he goes, I'll fucking go out with you with that. I'm like, what does that mean? He goes, well, we'll develop it and we'll go pitch it together. I have a deal with he had a deal at a network. So we had to bring it to the production company that he had a deal with.
Yep.
Pitch them. I never pitched anybody anything. They go, oh, we really like that. Brought it to the studio. The studio goes, well, we like that. Yeah. Now I'm working at Starbucks at the time. My wife is working at the hotel. So then we're going to go into the network. So we wrote out the pitch on the sheet and we go in and it's the people from the production company, the studio, and all of the heads of the network.
You had a whole conference table.
Yeah, it was big.
Yeah.
And so this guy was a big hot writer.
This is your first pitch.
First pitch. And so they say to this guy who the head of CBS at the time, the drama says, this is the best thing that I've ever read. His spec script, not the thing that we were pitching, but his body of work. He had a spec script that was very popular at the time.
Okay.
She's like, this is literally the best thing that I've ever read. Like fiction, Hemingway, and like this is the best.
No
and
shit.
then there was this awkward silence as everyone turned to me.
Yeah.
And so they're like, literally, the Messiah just walked in, and they know we're co-writing this. And I'm like, well, I know I don't have a writing sample, but I've been a greeting card writer for about 4 years now, and I'm particularly proud of my Christmas work.
Right.
Just like as a fucking icebreaker, because I had nothing to say. There was nobody. I wasn't going to talk my way out of it.
Did you actually say that?
Oh yeah. And so
what
then
happened?
they laughed because it was like, they clearly were like, and then like literally everyone shifted to me like, and why are you here? Like, so it was just awkward.
Are you thinking the same thing? Are you thinking like, I'm a barista?
Yeah.
Like, are you thinking?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, at a certain, yes, I'm thinking that. And before you go in and pitch a network,
right,
your contract's negotiated, because they don't want to hear something, get super excited about it, and then have to negotiate.
Right.
Because they know they'll be on the losing end of that.
Yeah.
So you know exactly what the stakes are before you go in.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
well, good.
And how much before?
Well, good and bad. I mean, there's a real mental. I had to do a lot of work to be mentally prepared to go in, and not be so overwhelmed with the possibility of what could be, as opposed to just focusing on the work that I'm actually in control of
and moving it forward.
Exactly.
Because we're talking about
not even moving it forward, just doing that.
Yeah.
Just doing that, and not worrying about whether it moves forward or not, but just going, I'm responsible for this pitch.
Holy shit, I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The script is a different thing.
Right.
Shooting it is a different thing.
Yeah.
Their reaction to it is a different thing.
Right.
So what am I in control of? Well, we rehearse this pitch. My job is to
do the pitch. Fuck everything else.
And that's it.
And we're talking about life-changing money hanging in the balance here.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what it was. It was, I think it was $175,000 to be split by two guys. Take 10% out for, at this time, agent, 5% for lawyer. I'm not sure if I had a manager. If I did, it would be 10% because I've been in and out of management. So 25%.
Yeah,
so you chop that in half.
Yeah.
So 25% gone. Not incorporated, so 50% gone in taxes.
Yeah, there goes Jerry Brown. He's like, I need my money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just say, to be on the healthy side, 65% gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just say 60. So I get 65. So I get 35% of that.
Wow.
So it's not life changing. I think at the end of the day, what I wound up getting was about $30,000 out of that. That's
not life changing.
It's not life changing, but I'll tell you, when you're pouring coffee and you're making
helps you get something to eat, though.
What it allowed me to do was get out of most of my debts at that point.
Yeah.
And so, to finish the story, so we go in and we pitch, we walk out, we're near the elevator, and
how did you think you did stand in front of the elevator?
I think I remember saying, I think that went okay. And he goes, you know what? Let me go back in there and check. Not my partner on that project, but one of the producers from the production company. So he goes in and he comes back out. He goes, congratulations. And I go, oh, they liked it. And he goes, no, they bought it. And so I'm like, oh shit, didn't expect that. So I'm like chewing on the inside of my cheek. I'm like, don't fucking cry in front of these guys.
Yeah.
Don't cry in front of these guys. Don't do that. So I'm like, all right, guys, we're riding the elevator.
You thought there was a next step and a next step and a next step to work out.
I didn't know anything. So I shake everybody's hand. My cell phone had been turned off at this point. We just didn't have any money. So this was by
not like you turned it off for the meeting.
No,
it was
gone. Yeah, there was no cell phone.
Yeah.
And so, it's funny. There was a part of the story that I didn't even tell, but before I even go to this, we had a 94 Cavalier. This is the morning of the meeting.
And what year is this?
2002.
Okay.
2003.
Okay. So a 10-year-old car.
No, this is 2004. Yeah, 10-year-old car.
Right.
So I went to go start the car. There was no gas. So I'm like, oh fuck. So I go back in
on the lot.
No, to go. I'm now going before the meeting.
Okay.
So this is the morning. I'm getting ready to go to the pitch meeting, and I go, well, there's no gas in the car, and my wife's like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm like, well, where's all the sofas and cushions had been taken out.
Yeah.
The carpet had been pulled up. There was no money. All the credit cards are maxed out.
Everything that you were shuffling was maxed out.
Yeah. Everything was maxed out. There was nothing. And I'm like, I can't miss this meeting.
Yeah.
And we were about 2 weeks from having to leave and go back home to Chicago. And so she goes,
holy shit.
Yeah. And she goes, I think, we got a credit card that, but I don't know where it is. I remember that there was one left, and I go, we could have used that 3 weeks ago. Like, why? She goes, I don't know where it is. We tear the whole place apart. We can't find it now. I'm getting dangerously close to being late to this meeting. We take all the files out of the little 2-shelf file cabinet that we had, and it had slipped between two folders, file folders. So I called the 800 number on the back, and the lady's like, we sent that out like 2 years ago. And I'm like, this is a total emergency. I'm going to a job interview. Can you just put $20 on the card so that I can put gas in the car? Literally, that's all I need.
Wow.
And she's like, you have $20 and that's it. So she fired it up. I ran because the pitch meeting was on the other side of town. I wouldn't have made, so I drove to the corner where the gas station was.
Yeah.
Put $20 in, race over, have that meeting that I just told you about. They say they bought it, so I know there's money coming. I don't, I knew what we negotiated, but I don't know what, after everyone chops it up, what it's going to be. But I know it's going to be some breathing room, you know?
Yeah.
So I run about a quarter mile to the farmer's market, which I know has payphones. So I call her collect at the house, at the
just sold
the
a
apartment.
TV show, making a collect call.
Yeah, just sold a TV show. And so that happened. I went through the whole process of, we got some money. We got to pay down the debts. I paid back the $20 that Visa lent me to get the gas money. And then, we weren't writing partners. So that, he went his way, and now I had to figure it out again. And I was going out to meet on shows, and I was at a very high level because I co-created the show, but I had no experience. So they're like, we're not going to bring you in that. You literally have to start at the bottom, which is a staff writer, which is still amazing money.
Yeah.
It's a tremendous break. So I wrote a spec, which is an original one, because he and I co-wrote that, and they were worried because he was such a talented writer
that he had done all the heavy lifting.
He had done everything, yeah.
Right.
So I wrote an original spec off of The Shield, and so I went out for a meeting. And again, now the money's gone.
Yeah.
The debt's returned.
Right.
It's a year and a half later after that first sale.
Yeah, right.
No cell phones. The cell phone's gone again.
Wow.
Everything's returned back. And I go to, I meet a guy by the name of Bobby Moresco at Priscilla's Coffee in Burbank.
Bobby Moresco.
For a show called The Black Donnellys that was going to air on NBC. And he was one of the co-creators with Paul Haggis. And both of those guys were nominated for an Academy Award for the movie Crash at the time. I start telling him my story, Teamster truck driver from Chicago, the whole thing. He goes, I'm a Teamster truck driver from Hell's Kitchen. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? And so we start talking, and we're eyeing each other. And he goes, I tell you what, kid, if you can write as good as you talk, I'm going to hire you.
No shit.
And
that's how you got Black Donnellys.
And so I go home, or I call my wife collect again. And I said, I think this guy's legit. He's from Hell's Kitchen. He's like the guys that we know from back home. I think this guy's a straight shooter. And I get the call at our apartment by Sepulveda and Magnolia. And they go, you got the job. It's 13 episodes ordered. So you got a guarantee of 13 episodes. And I had dropped my wife off earlier that day so that I could use the car. And so I go, so this is legit. Yeah. I'm guaranteed 13 episodes. How much money is that? And they said, and I go, thank you. Hung up the phone, raced over the hill, parked the car in front of my wife's hotel, walked in, and I go, pack your shit. You're done.
Wow.
Nice.
That was like Officer and a Gentleman and shit.
Yeah.
You should have picked her up.
That's what I was like. One of the best moments of my entire life.
We're gonna have to layer in some music when we do this in the mix.
Yeah, I'm like, tell him you're done. And so she's like, what? I'm like, I got the job. Tell him you're done. And she's like, all right. And she went back. The little management office was right behind the front desk. And she's like, guys, I'm giving my 2 weeks. And they're like, what?
Yeah,
that's it.
My husband's a writer.
Fucking incredible. So,
wow.
And since then, I've worked every year, and that was 2006.
Wow. So there's a cycle, right? And it's like a season for our listeners. It's like a season, like you're a baseball player.
Absolutely.
And in the off season, you got to prepare. And then there's like a time of the year when everybody is sort of setting their staff up. And if you miss that time of year, you pretty much miss the year.
There are more, yes, certainly. And there are more opportunities now than ever with year-round staffing. Like Fox has gone to a year-round schedule of picking up content. Uh-huh. But staffing season usually tends to be May and April, starting in June. Cable hires almost all year round. But say you have a show that is a newer show, and you have the front order, which is 13, and then the back 9, which is the back order.
Yeah.
You may have people on your staff that just aren't vibing right with, just aren't right for the show. Those writers will let go, and now there's staffing opportunities in the middle of the year because they need people for the back 9.
Right.
So it is, it's mid-season, trades. If you keep with your baseball analogy.
Yeah.
But you need a good spec. I wrote a new spec last year. It's
You're still writing specs.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I write whether I get paid or not.
Yeah.
I go up and I've been doing stand up basically for 18 years for free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love doing it. And I think, once it became really about the audience, people getting babysitters, people, to come out a long week, they had to, pay for the valet. They're working 60 hours. They just want a show. They just want a show, man. And it's my job to serve that. And once it became about that, and I got out of the gimme line and I got in the thank you line, some fucking huge changes in my life. But creatively, just opened everything up because there's not this tremendous anxiety to get. You're giving now. Once that becomes the dynamic, for me, for other people, they have to get. They're just like, I'm gonna beat the fucking world up. That world's not ready for me. Right. Good luck with that, man. I sleep like a little baby at night.
Yeah,
I sleep like a little baby.
Wow. Well, hey, man. I don't take your time for granted.
Thank you.
So thank you, man.
Yeah,
I couldn't imagine a better note to end that on. So we're big Mick Betancourt fans, man. Fuck, I love you, man. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me on the show.
Right on.